Salvete discipuli discipulaeque. I hope you are all having a wonderful evening. Welcome back to class, even in the evening. So I'm going to be explaining briefly the homework. And first, I'd like to just talk a bit about what are comparative adjectives. So you see here in the directions that there are 3 different degrees, or tres grados, of adjective. The positivus, comparativus, et superlativus, or positive, comparative, and superlative. So just to make sure we know what these are, let's go over them quickly in English. So an example of a positive adjective would be tall, right? I might say that Dr. Holbrook is a tall man. And let's say I was talking about Dr. Holbrook and I was comparing him to Goliath. So Dr. Holbrook is tall, but Goliath is taller. So that's comparative. And if I were to talk about the superlative, I'd say Goliath is tall, and he's even taller than Grant Holbrook. But the tallest man on earth is the Incredible Hulk, or something. I don't know actually who the tallest would be, but tallest. So that is the superlative form. And in Latin, these different degrees have slightly different endings. And so we're going to go over what those endings are and examples of when these adjectives are used, when the different degrees are used. So the first one that we're given is brevis, which means short. So Februarius mensis brevis est. February is a short month. Et Februarius brevior est quam ceteri mens est. Brevior est quam. You remember that quam is a comparative word that means as. Brevior quam ceteri mens est. Februarius mensis brevissimus est. So it's not merely a shorter month than others. It's the shortest month of all. Brevissimus mensis est Februarius. And part of what makes third declension adjectives tricky, but also a little easier in some instances, is the masculine and feminine endings for the third declension look the same for the most part. And whenever we make an adjective comparative, it's going to be declined in the masculine and feminine as a third declension noun, right? So that's very helpful. And then with the superlative, I'd also just point out the S, right? You see double S. So often the superlative is easy to recognize because we've just made a word that much longer. Brevissimus. It's sort of over the top. And so you can think of superlative as going to the extreme, and the word itself goes to the extreme because the form is just extended. And it's also a little easier because it has just the typical first and second declension endings of a, us, and the masculine, feminine, neuter. So let's jump into the exercise. We'll review this more as we go. And let's read the directions. So, scribe gradus adjectivorum, tantum necesse est scribere nominativum. So, if you understand that, we only have to write the nominative endings for each adjective. Right. Positivus, alt. All right. So, what is the adjective there? Altus, right? Tall, deep. So, for masculine, altus. For feminine, quid talk, bene. Expectate. Optime. Don't know why it's moving. For masculine, altus. For feminine, alta. For neuter, altum, right? Altum. Great. Now let's move on to the comparative form of this adjective. So how would we say taller in Latin? We'd say altior, right? And then in feminine, it would stay altior. And here's where it might get a little tricky. For neuter, it's actually going to be altius. So for the comparative neuter form, we're going to actually, instead of doing the typical eor, we're going to add ius to that stem, to that alt. And then for the superlative, altissimus, altissima, and altissimum. Right, okay. So we have the double S, and then we have the us, and the a, and the isim, isim a, isim us. Right. Right now we have the adjective tenuis, right? And tenuis means it means skinny. Tenuis. So the regular form, tenuis. And if you remember for the neuter, I believe it's tenue, if I'm not mistaken. So oftentimes the neuter third declension ending is going to be an E, short E. That's something to learn. It's a little tricky at times to remember that the neuter form in the nominative has that E ending. You'll see that in the chart at the back of the book. So the comparative form is going to be tenuior, right? And then it's going to be the same for the feminine. And then it's going to be tenuius. The superlative, tenuissimus, tenuissima, et tenuissimum. Sorry, I don't know why the letters are shifting down. And now we have the adjective clarus, clara, clarum. So it should be clarus, right? Clara, clarum, for clear and for clearer. So that clarus, clara, clarum is just clear. Clarior. Oh, Christok. Clarior. Clarior. And clarius. Optime. And the superlative, we have to add issimus, issima, issimum. Clarissimus, clarissima, and clarissimum. Great, I hope that's clear. Now we'll use some in sentences, but if you have any questions about these, feel free to ask me, circle them, and we can come back to them in class. There are some irregular forms from time to time, like large is actually magnus. We'll just take the masculine. And then the comparative is Mayor. And then in neuter, actually the comparative is maius, and then maximus in the superlative. So that's an irregular one that we'll learn. But for the most part, they follow the form that we just practiced above. So let's move on to exercise 5. Imple spatia vacua finibus graduum adjuvectorum. So we're supposed to fill in the empty spaces with the correct endings. Bene, nullus mensis brevi blank est quam Februarius. So we saw this one above, right? Februarius is the shortest month, which means that nullus mensis, no month, brevior est quam Februarius. And brevior modifying the mensis, so it's in the same nominative case. Is mensis anni brev blank est. Si nullus mensis brevior est quam Februarius, diende is mensis id est Februarius anni brevissimus mensis est. So if no month is shorter, then it's the shortest, right? Talking about February. Number 2, sol est stella blank quam ceterae stellae. Sol est stella clarior quam, meaning as, right? Quam ceterae stellae. Sol est stella clarior quam ceterae stellae. Sol stella caeli clarissima est. Could talk. Clarissima. Because even though sol is masculine, clarissima is referring to stella, right? Sol stella clarissima est, the clearest or brightest star. Nilus flumen long blank et lat blank est quam cetera flumina Africae. So, first of all, what gender is the noun flumen? Well, if you remember correctly, flumen is neuter. So that means we're talking about the Nile here, the Nile River. Flumen, being neuter, means that these comparative adjectives also need to be neuter, since they're modifying it. So we need to say longius instead of longior, et latius, longer and broader, quam cetera flumina Africae, than other rivers of Africa. Id flumen Africae longissimum et latissimum est. Bene. Number 4. Nulli milites forti blank sunt quam Romani. So here we know that it's plural. So rather than just putting fortior, we need to put fortiores, right? Third declension plural ending. Fortiores sunt quam Romani. No soldiers are stronger or more courageous than the Roman soldiers. Romani milites fortissimi sunt, the most courageous. Tiberius, number 5. Tiberius praenomen blank est quam cetera praenomina. Praenomina, right? This is a neuter noun again, so we need longius. Tiberius praenomen longius est quam cetera praenomina, instead of longior if this were masculine or feminine noun. Id praenomen Latinum longissimum est. Right, well, we've come to the end of the exercise, and if you have any more... we haven't, sorry. Page 8. Let's finish on this subsequent page. Let's finish the exercise. Number 6. Verba ire et dare brev blank sunt, quam cetera verba latina. So we're talking about verba. So this is neuter plural, the subject, verba. So we should have breviora. That is the accusative, third declension, neuter accusative plural. Breviora, which you'll see in the charts. Verba ire et dare breviora sunt quam cetera verba latina. Ea verba latina brevissima sunt. And again, this is just the second declension neuter accusative plural. I've been saying accusative for both of these, but I mean to be saying nominative plural. Though the accusative is also a. That's neuter nominative plural. Great. Number 7. Meridie, it is ablative of time, right? At midday. Meridie sol blank in caelo est quam ante et post meridiem. Sol bene. Altior est. Sol altior in caelo est. The sun is higher in the sky. Quam ante et post meridiem. Meridie sol altissimus est in caelo. And the us, because it's modifying sol, which is masculine. Number 8. Medus. Nulla femina tam formosa aut tam proba est quam Lydia. Ea femina formosior, right? Because in third declension, which these comparative adjectives are, the masculine and feminine have the same endings. So, ea femina formosior ac probior est quam aliae feminae. So we could put that, but we could also put something else, right? Because, so we could say that she's formosior ac probior, formosior ac probior quam omnes aliae feminae. That's what I've put. But here it might be asking us to put most beautiful woman, the most beautiful woman in the world. So, because Medus is speaking. So we would put probably, both of those are acceptable, but formosissima. Formosissima. Et probissima. Right? So I hope that you've been able to benefit from this review of the exercise, and I look forward to seeing you in class tomorrow.